Hi, I'm Dan Costa, the Chief Content Officer at Worth Media Group, and I am here with the Global Managing Partner of IBM Consulting, Neil Dhar. Thanks so much for joining us here in Davos.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
So this is your first time in Davos. You've been here for a couple of days.
A couple of days. It feels like a couple of years.
They're long days. What are your impressions so far?
I've been here. I got here on Sunday. I like to think of it as organized chaos. I mean, there are people everywhere. Meetings taking place, meeting with clients, government officials, old friends. So it's been a fantastic experience. I think the overall mood is pretty positive, right? It depends on maybe what part of the world someone's coming from. So I feel like there's a lot of at least business exuberance coming from the US and parts of Asia.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm almost shocked by how much business exuberance there is.
Yeah.
Politically, not so much, but from a business perspective, it seems like everybody's really excited about the new technologies coming online and the opportunities globally.
Yeah, and the speed of having that come online. I do think there's some concerns around just geopolitical issues and how things will work out and tensions and things like that. But I think overall, I'd say relative positivity.
And you went to the Edelman event yesterday or the day before?
Oh, that was a great event, actually. Yeah. So as you know, they do an annual trust barometer, some really interesting findings. One interesting finding that I thought was that the lack of trust that businesses have with their employee base, right? And with that, how do we improve and make that come to life? But yeah, that was actually a fascinating session. Government officials were there. Actually, a former presidential candidate was there, along with
You don't want to name names?
It was Nikki Haley.
Yeah.
It was Nikki Haley, and the CEO from Heineken was there. So it was a terrific session.
I've actually heard from a lot of companies that trust gap between management and their employees is actually hindering some AI adoption, because these are new tools and employers are worried about being replaced. And they've sort of got to get their employees over that hump in order to get them to use all these new tools.
Well, you're hitting on a pretty wide topic here, so let me take a couple of things there. I think at the end of the day, as someone who looks after 160,000 consulting practice, I find it's my responsibility, as a senior leader, to make sure that I'm helping upskill that employee base, right? Bringing the technology to them. To upskill them for whatever they go on to do. I hope many of them stay with IBM for the rest of their career, but some will go on to do other things, including becoming great clients of ours. And I think you got to start with that mindset, right? That we all have to upskill and take ownership of our knowledge. I think the second thing around trust that you had mentioned was the whole notion of how technology, be it agents or assistants or Gen AI, how that actually makes people better, right? And makes your daily lives better so you can do a wider set of things, right? So I think once we get into, productivity only, I think we've lost a plot. I do think some of the technologies that we're talking about actually will increase the growth side of things.
So what are you seeing? Obviously you're meeting with a lot of clients here, a lot of officials. Are there any trends that you've picked up on globally that are surprising to you?
Well, this year, obviously a lot of talk about technology, right? A lot of talk about technology. What I'm seeing a lot though is this whole notion of, I call it the where's the beef phenomena around, are you getting real return? What is that? I hear all sorts of outlandish type of stats around productivity is going to be increasing by 20 and 30%, and you're going to be doing all sorts of things. But as companies make investments, I spent most of my career actually advising on M&A type of activity, and that's the mentality that I come with, is a return on investment. Where is the actual returns? And I know boardrooms are asking that, CEOs are asking that. So we're really moving out of the phase of, okay, let's talk about it, to how is that going to drop results? And I think we have to be practical about how return is going to be. I also think the technology is a great equalizer.
Yeah.
So I also do think we have to work through, like, how is that going to make good companies great, right? And I think you'll see separation between pretenders and real contenders.
Yeah, last year it was all about proof of concept. You've got to get something going, and companies were throwing tons of money at developing any kind of AI solution, and then afterwards, a lot of them discovered, we actually didn't think this through. We've got this cool AI, but it doesn't do anything to really help the business. Now people are starting to say, no, really, where can we actually get some returns off this?
And also, do you have the right technology in your hand? We talk about these, LLM models and, all sorts of, big, powerful, pieces of
The machines that do everything.
yeah, but is that the right thing for what you're trying to accomplish as a company, right? Do you need a simplifier model that will do, 95, 98% of what you need done? So I also we need to think through, like, do we have the right technology in people's hands?
Yeah, and honestly, being more focused and launching a small language model is actually a lot more cost effective.
That's
it
right.
uses less energy. It just might suit the job better.
Yeah.
But that wasn't really a discussion a year ago.
I mean, look, I'm a massive believer of that. IBM, IBM Granite is actually exactly what you just described. It's a smaller model that gets done what you need to get done in a much more efficient way, energy efficient way.
So what are you looking forward to? What are you hoping to take away from Davos when all this is done?
That was great. I was just talking to a colleague of mine about that exact point. I think some of this is like, how do you now take it to the next level, right? And I do think there's a lot of uncertainty, but how do we help our clients grow, right? Again, that ties to the positivity angle. Inorganically, right? I sense there's going to be a lot more M&A activity, which is positive. That spurs
Certainly
things.
the regulatory environment in the U.S. is going to be very conducive to that.
That's right. I was talking to an executive last night that made that exact point, that the regulation hopefully will make life a lot easier so you could pursue inorganic growth. I think on the organic side of things, again, the return on investment point we talked about. I also think we have to watch this landscape around what regulation is going to look like, right? There's some talk about that, but what is it really going to be? And I think it's going to be very different from geography to geography.
Yeah, I think it's one of the interesting things about Davos is you sort of get a peek into how every region is handling all of these different issues, and everybody can come together and talk about them.
That's exactly right.
And I think we are going to see some divergent paths, certainly between the U.S. and Europe, but even globally as well.
And what I do fear is that that regulation doesn't separate where one country is able to innovate at a much faster pace than maybe another region of the world.
Yeah, I think that's one of the idea of inclusivity is one of the undercurrents in Davos, ironically, because it's a very exclusive event.
That's right.
But I think that the conversation about making sure these technologies and this economic development lifts everybody up is something that happens. I'm shocked that it happens in as many corporate environments as I've been in.
Yeah. But we should never lose sight of that, right? We should never lose sight of that.
Amen to that. Neil Dhar, thanks so much for coming by and talking to us.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. I'm Dan Costa, Chief Content Officer at Worth Media Group. We've got more content on worth.com and on YouTube. We'll see you there.